All right, I think we're back. Do apologize, guys, but I have a very crappy connection, if you haven't already been able to tell. So I do apologize for that. I had just opened the first pack, just had pulled the cards out of the pack and was gonna show off the design, and boom, it lost signal. Don't know what happened. So, but yeah. So we had just pulled out the first pack, the cards out of the first pack, and was going to again. We'll just go. So we'll just go ahead and resume there. So do apologize there. But these are what the base design looks like if you are not familiar. So you've got a big old block, foil block right in the center of the bottom center of the card. That has the Donruss logo. You've got the team logo. You've got the player's number. You have both the city and team name, and then you have in the bottom right hand corner, you have the position that the player plays. And then, of course, at the top in the corner, you've got a stripe that is color coded for the team that includes their name, and then it fades off as it goes from right to left. So you can see the first card here is for the Sox, Red Sox, um, Alicia, I think. Back of the cards, get the big logo in the background, another player photo on the right, and then you've got several years worth of stats and a little bio, a little block of text, and then across the bottom in a silver strip, you have the player's info, height, weight, how they bat and throw, as well as their date of birth and their birthplace. So my only gripe, I mean, if you like full bleed cards, it's not a bad design. My only gripe is the box, the foil box, kind of cuts off some of the photo. So in this case, it's only cutting off his knee. So it's not too bad, but I've seen some where, kind of gets in the way. But overall, not a bad design. So, hey, good evening, Victor. So yeah, we were just got the first pack open and then it cut out on me. No Yankees. Well, you have a very good chance at getting several, and of course they're loaded in the checklist or the inserts as well. We have 36 packs, 12 cards a pack. Inserts fall roughly 1 in 20, and they're all sequentially numbered. And then the press brief parallels are 1 in 12, so we should see a couple of those. So hopefully we can get you some Bernies or get you something of the pinstripes here tonight. All right, so behind the Alicia, we have a Dave Martinez for the White Sox. We have a Jacob Brumfield for the Pirates, Mickey Tettleton for the Rangers, Mike Mims for Philly, Estebaneza for the Pirates, Woody Williams for the Jays, Kevin Foster for the Cubs, Midray Cummings, Pirates, Carl Everett for the Mets, Scott Brocious for the A's, and Melvin Nieves for the Padres. So that gets us started. Next up, we have Tom Goodwin for the Braves. He was their first base coach until recently. Tom Goodwin for the Royals. Al Martin for the Pirates. John Valentine, Red Sox. Alan Watson, Cardinals. Steve Finley for the Padres. Sergio Valdez, Giants. Brett Boone, Reds. Gary Sheffield, the Marlins. Alan Battle, Cardinals. Kevin Stalker, Philly. Drives me crazy with them all, different orientations. Steve Anaveros, the Athletics, and Glenn Dishman, the Padres. Next up, we have B.J. Surhoff for the Brewers. Mark McLemore, Rangers. John Smiley for the Reds. Pat Lestache from Milwaukee, Brewers. Mel Rojas, Expos. Rod Beck for the Giants. Chad Fonville, this is a rated rookie, for the Dodgers. Shane Andrews, Expos. Tony Eusebio for the Astros. Joey Hamilton, Padres. Big Hurt, Frank Thomas for the Sox. And here's our first Yankee, the Sandman. There's Daddy Bichette, Dante. David Bell, Cardinals. Chris Bosio, the Mariners. Doug Drabeck for the Astros. Jeff Branson, Reds. J.R. Phillips, Giants. Sandy Alomar Jr., Indians. Julian Tavares, Indians. Ed Sprague, Jays. Jose Mesa, Indians. Spike Owen for the Angels. And Stan Javier for the Athletics. One of these days, Victor, you need to film some of your your collection binders as you flip through the pages. I'd love to see, since you're taking the effort to do that. I'd love to see what you got. All right, next pack for the Twins, we got Matt Wahlbeck, followed by Mike Bordick for the A's. Looks like we got a card coming up. Mike Mordecai for the Braves. John Mabry for the Cardinals. Robert Pettigene for the Padres. We'll slide the cards at the back to the front. Randy Varez for the Marlins. Got a Sean Bergman for the Tigers. Jose Canseco for the Red Sox. There's the Lyle Mouton for the White Sox. And we have a Diamond Kings, Roberto Alomar. Oops, we did have a few cards behind them. But again, these are all numbered to 10,000, 8,377 of 10,000. But again, back in 1996, this was kind of a big deal. And then behind him, behind the Alomar, we had a Steve Avery and a Joe Carter hiding in the pack. So there is insert number 1. And again, it says the The inserts fall roughly 1 in 20 packs. A little surprised it's not, odds aren't a little higher. All right, John Burkett for the Marlins. There's a rated rookie, Bill Pulsefire for the Mets. Rated rookie, Ray Durham, White Sox. These are just ever so sticking. Not damaging each other, but sticking enough to be annoying. Lou Whitaker for the Tigers. Rob Nin for the Marlins. We have Orlando Merced for the Pirates. Greg McMichael for the Braves. Mark Grace for the Cubs. John Doherty, Tigers. Felipe Lira, Tigers. Brian Maxey, Tigers. And Trinidad Hubbard, Colorado. I do like this little tear tab on the side. Jim Edmonds, Angels. Chili Davis, Angels. Ron Karkovice, the White Sox. There's a Cal Ripken Jr. base. Scott Stoviak for the Twins. Mark Lemke for the Braves. Bernard Gilkey, Cardinals. John Flaherty, Tigers. Greg Zahn, Orioles. Ismael Valdez for the Dodgers. Pedro Bourbon, Braves. Eric Karros, Dodgers. Roberto Alomar for the Jays. James Mouton, Astros. Domingo Cedeno, Domingo Cedeno, Jays. Will Cordero, Expos. Ramon Martinez, for the Dodgers. Tony Fernandez, Yankees. Mike Fetters, the Brewers. Mark Aker, Athletics. Edgar Alfonso for the Mets. Joe Girardi for the Rockies. Scott Sanders, Padres. And John Nunali, Royals. Mike McFarland, Red Sox. Real Cormier, Red Sox. Thomas Howard, Reds. Here's a rated rookie, Andy Pettit for the Yankees. Rick Cravetta, Orioles. Jeff Montgomery, Royals. Dennis Martinez for Cleveland. Tom Glavine for the Braves. Jeff Brantley, Reds. Manny Alexander, Orioles. Barry Bonds for the Giants. And Ricky Henderson, Athletics. Good star-studded pack there. Dave Stevens for the Twins. Jose Aquino. And a Brian Jordan, both for the Cardinals. Mike James, Angels. Melvin Diaz, Padres, John Wetland for the Yankees. Wilson Alvarez. White Sox, Manny Ramirez. Indians, Pedro Munoz. The Twins, Andy Van Slyke for Philly. Angelo Encarnacion for the Pirates. And Scott Stoviak for the Twins. Good evening from Dallas. Good evening, Matthew. So what's going on in Dallas? Bip Roberts for the Padres. Greg Myers for the Angels. Chad Curtis, Tigers. Garrett Anderson, Angels. Glenn Dishman, Padres. Hal Morris for the Reds. Jeff Kent, Mets. Charles Nagy, Indians. Mike Greenwell, Red Sox. Scott Erickson for the Orioles. Tim Naring for the Red Sox. And Ramon Martinez, Dodgers. Stars and Ducks game. Well, I hope you had a good time. All right, so we've got a checklist, but this will go to the Orioles, of course, for the 2,131 consecutive games for the Iron Man. That's a unique photo. Derek Bell, the Stros. Looks like maybe a Braves leg there. Troy O'Leary, Red Sox. Oral Hershiser, Indians. There's another Sandman, Darren Fletcher, Expos. Dean Palmer, Rangers. Antonio Ozuna for the Dodgers. Frank Rodriguez, F-Rod for the Twins. Marquise Grissom, Braves. Orlando Miller, Astros. And a Rick Creveda again. So we're still looking for our first press proof parallel. Let's have a gold foil stamp down the right hand side of the card, and then I believe the silver foil is also replaced with a gold foil, so it should stand out. Don't think I'll miss that, but just keep an eagle eye out. Hector Carrasco for the Reds. Doug Jones, Orioles. John Jaha, Brewers. Andre Dawson for the Marlins. Stan Javier, Athletics. Melvin Bunch for KC. Jim Abbott, Angels. Jason Bear, White Sox. Bobby Alaya, Mariners. There's the new Braves skipper, Walt Weiss. Not sure what to think of that news, but we'll see how it goes. Another Rockies player, Jason Bates, followed by Brian Hunter for the Stros. A little delayed starting tonight thanks to some wonderful technical difficulties. Benji Gill, Rangers, Kevin Gross. Rangers, Ryan Klesko. Braves, Jay Buhner. Mariners, Jose Canseco. For the Red Sox, we got a Dave Winfield. For the Indians, Brad Klontz for the Braves, and our first press proof, Jeff Nelson for the Mariners. And these are not sequentially numbered, but it does say the first 2,000 cards. Ken Caminiti for the Padres. Alex Diaz for the Mariners. Here's a checklist with Eddie Murphy, so that will go to the Indians, and a Yorkis Perez Marlins. Can't be any worse than having Aaron Boone as a manager. Well, seeing how I don't my exposure to the Yankees really this season was in the playoffs. Can't really say too much. I know here in Braves country, a lot of people thought the hire of Walt Weiss was just too comfortable, staying in house, promoting the bench coach. It's going to be more of Brian Snicker, but I mean, they've already made some major changes to the coaching staff and let some players go. And so, yeah, I'm sure like a lot of us can't wait for the hot stove meetings. But you know what? Spring training will be here before we know it. This year has already gone by quick. All right, starting us off, we got Mark Wohlers for the Braves. We got William Van Landingham for the Giants. Todd Hundley for the Mets. Mike Lansing, Expos. Trinidad Hubbard, Rockies. Brian McRae, Cubs. Rated rookie Curtis Goodwin for the Orioles. Jim Bullinger, Cubbies. Luis Ortiz. Rangers, Tim Bogar. Mets, Brad Radke for the Twins, and a John Eriks for the Pirates. Arg. So Victor is, in your opinion, of course, right? Was Aaron Boone, was he leaving pitchers in too long? What do you think? You said he loses at least a dozen games for him every season. So what do you think about him? Does that, how do you come to that comment that he loses? Dean Hartgraves for the Astros. Scott Leyes for the Twins. Jeff Bagwell. Astros. David Segui. Expos. Eric Karros for the Dodgers. Lenny Dykstra. Philly. Pat Mahomes for the Twins. Mark Leiter. Giants, Pat Mears. Twins, Greg Vaughn. Brewers, Chris Haney for the Royals, and Heathcliff Slocum Padres. So you're looking for 2 cards, Matt. Well, we got one more pack after this before we hit the halfway point. So we got a good bit to go. Todd Stottlemyre, the A's, starts us off with a Dave Malecki. For the Mets, Russ Davis. For the Yankees, Todd Worrell. Dodgers, John Nunnally. For the Royals, Tom Pagnozzi. Cardinals, Kirby Puckett. For the Twins, Brad Ausmus. Padres, Ozzie Timmons. For the Cubbies, rated rookie of Carlos Perez. Expos, Paul Minhart. For the Jays, and Aaron Seeley, Red Sox. Mismanaging the bullpen, odd lineup decisions, also resting players too much, even if it's a game that really they need. Yeah, I can't say the last part for Snicker, but definitely mismanaging bullpen and then changing the lineup was something that a lot of Braves fans ridiculed Snicker for. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Rated rookie, Bobby Higginson for the Tigers. Tony Phillips. Angels, Al Leiter. For the Jays, Delino DeShields. Dodgers, Ricky Henderson. Athletics, Alex Gonzalez. Jays, Alan Trammell. Tigers. Tyler Green, Philly. Brian Anderson, Angels. Mark Grudzielanek. Expos, Billy Ashley. Dodgers, Kurt Laskanik. For the Rockies. So there's the first half. Move those to the side. And let's all right, we got Hector Carrasco. Reds, Bob Jones. Another Klesko. Another Andre Dawson. Another Sandman. Melvin Bunch for KC. Brad Klotz for the Braves. Mark Leiter. Giants. Kurt Schilling for Philly. Another Walt Weiss. Another Jason Bates. Another Brian Hunter. So we are starting to see dupes already. Victor says, speaking of Aaron Boone, plus he doesn't hold players accountable, so they walk all over him. The team never gets better at the fundamentals. I could go on for days why I dislike Boone. Is he locked up? I assume he'll be back for the 2026 season. Benji Gill for the Rangers. Kevin Gross, Rangers. Todd Hundley, Mets. Buhner. Stan Javier. Dave Winfield. Curtis Goodwin. Brad Ausmus. These are all duplicates. Ken Caminiti for the Padres. Alex Diaz, Mariners. Another checklist. Eddie Murray and Yorkis Perez. Zip. Mark Wallers, Braves. Van Landingham, Giants. Bagwell. Mike Lansing. Another Canseco. Nick Ray, Mahomes, Tyler Green, Luis Ortiz, Tim Bogar, Brad Radke, and John Eriks. I believe every one of those have already been pulled. I think this year and one more year, perhaps. He's been here since 2018. No other Yankee manager in history lasted that long without a championship. Hartgraves for the Astros. Scott Leyes, Twins. Russ Davis, Yankees. David Segui, Expos. Hubbard, Lenny Dykstra, another Puckett, Joe Oliver, Pat Mears, Greg Vaughn, Chris Haney for the for KC, and Slocum. Hey Matt, if you're still here, are you sure the 2 cards you're looking for are in Series 1? I think Series 1 went up to 330. First 330 cards of the set were Series 1. Stottlemyre, Malecki, Leiter, Worrell, Karros, Pagnozzi, Trammell, Gary DiSorcina for the Angels, Ozzie Timmons, Carlos Perez, Paul Minhart, Aaron Seeley. Higginson, Phillips, Greg Colburn for the Marlins, DeLiner DeShields, Dodgers, Nunnally, Alex Gonzalez, Jays, we have Moise Alou, Expos, Lee Smith, Angels, Brian Anderson for the Angels, Mark Grudzielanek, Billy Ashley, Kurt Liskanek. Oh, okay. Gotcha. If you hit any card shops while you're down there? Ricky Bones, Padres, Chris Hammond, Marlins, Brett Maine for the Royals, Glenn Allen Hill, Giants, Jerry DiPato, Mets, Xavier Hernandez for the Reds, Jason Giambi, Athletics, David Cone, Dodgers for the Yankees, Vinny Castilla, Rockies, Tim Wallach for the Dodgers, Darryl Strawberry, Yankees, and a Darryl Whitmore for the Marlins. So at least finally it's a pack that had some new names. Sean Green, Herbert Perry for the Indians, Bryce Flory, Padres, Chuck Finley, the Angels, Jamie Moyer, Orioles. There's a rated rookie, Johnny Damon for the Royals. Gerald Williams, Yankees. Tom Henke. For the Cardinals, Jeff Cirillo. Brewers, Roel Mondesi. Dodgers, Eric Hansen. Red Sox, and another press proof Chad Curtis of the Tigers. That was our second parallel. Isringhausen, rated rookie for the Mets. Royce Clayton, Giants. Jose Hernandez, Cubs. Todd Van Poppel, Athletics. Trip Cromer, Cardinals. Tim Scott, Expos. Mark Johnson for the Pirates. Rusty Greer, Rangers. David Justice, Braves. Jeff Russell, Rangers. Scott Servais, Cubs. Ellis Burks, Rockies. Hope we get at least one more insert. Eddie Murray, Ariel Prieto, the Athletics. Tony Longmire, Philly. Mike Perez, Cubs. Darrell Whitmore for the Fish. Brett Saberhagen, Rockies. Ruben Sierra, Yankees. Mike Kelly, Braves. Eddie Taubensee, Reds. Rick Aguilera, Red Sox. A-Rod for the Mariners, and a Jeff Branson, the Reds. Gary Gaetti, Royals. Randy Myers, Cubs. Robbie Thompson, Giants. Brent Gates, Athletics. There's another Mondesi. Tomas Perez, Mike Morgan. The Cardinals, Joe Bober. Tigers, Joe Vitello. The Royals, Harold Baines, Eric Young, and Robert Pettigene. Todd Jones, Mark Whitten, Matt Masecki, Steve Reed, another Burks, Dave Magadan, Lance Johnson, White Sox, Bob Hamlin, Royals, Sid Roberson, the Brewers, Frank Castillo, Cubs. We have a Paul Molitor checklist going to the Jays, and Rob Nen for the Fish. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 packs to go after this one. If the odds work out correctly, we should see one more press proof parallel, and potentially, if we're lucky, another insert. Javi Lopez for the Braves, Butch Henry, Expos, Pete Shorrock, Reds, Mike Blowers, Mariners, Brian Hunter, Steve Paris for the Pirates. We have Hippolito Picardo, if I said that right, for the Royals, Jeff Manto for the Orioles, Terry Steinbach for the A's, Will Clark for the Rangers, Edwin Hurtado for the Jays, and Jerry Gepato, something like that. I gotta start remembering to bring a bottle of water up when I do these things. Ray Sanchez for the Cubs, Chuck Carr, Marlins, Scott Klingenbeck for the Twins, Joey Cora, Mariners, Yorkis Perez, Kenny Rogers, Rangers, Travis Fryman, Tigers, and Jose Oquendo, press proof for the Cardinals. Followed by Trevor Hoffman, Mike Hampton, Steve Sparks, and a Jamie Moyer. So my math skills prevailed, and I was right in the fact that the box should yield 3 of the press proofs. Albert Bell for the Indians, Tom Candiotti, Dodgers, Morandini, Philly, Pat Kelly for the Yankees, John Eriks, Rico Brogna, Mets, Darren Lewis, Reds, Mike Stanley for the Yankees, Kurt Schilling, Philly, Charles Johnson for the Marlins, and Reggie Sanders for the Reds, Trip Cromer, Cardinals. Uh-oh, we got us another insert. So let me slide it to the back. Omar Vizquel, Cardinals, another Slocum, Mark. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. For KC, we got a Tino for the Mariners, Sandy Martinez for the Jays, Jay Bell for the Pirates, Dave Ferris for the Astros. There's a Kirby Puckett checklist. We got Mike Mims, Jeff Nelson, got a John Franco for the Mets, and I thought this was an elite card based off of the top that I saw, but it is a hit list. Or excuse me, not hit list, Power Alley for Tim Salmon. $4,816 to $5,000. $19.95 power stats, 34 doubles, 34 home runs, and a .594 slugging percentage. All right, guys, final 2 packs. We'll see if there's anything surprises in these final 2. Got Dan Maselli for the Pirates. We got Bill Swift for the Rockies. Ben McDonald, Orioles. Dan Wilson, Aaron Seeley, Andy Benez for the Mariners. Sterling Hitchcock for the Yankees. Kurt Manwaring, Giants. Hey, Donnie Baseball. Roberto Hernandez, Tim Laker, Steve Finley. And our final pack of the night. Wouldn't be a 90s product without a Bobby Bowes sighting. This time for the Orioles. Nelson Liriano, Pirates, Charlie Hayes, Philly. Roger Pavlik, Rangers, Kurt Laskanik. Todd Zeile for the Cubs. And a Paul Sorrento for the Cardinals. Brian Kaiser. White Sox, Von Eshelman. Red Sox, Mark Carrion. Giants, Joe Orsulak. Mets, and a Mel Rojas for the Expos. And that is it, guys. Lots of base cards. I think most teams actually had a pretty good representation, not only on the checklist, but what was also pulled tonight. So, but I really thought the inserts would be a little more plentiful. I mean, we beat the odds at 1 in 20 packs to get 2. So, I thought they might be a little more plentiful. But what's your favorite? Power Alley Salmon or the Diamond Kings Alomar? And if you know me, you know my answer to this. Three parallels, press proofs. We have Aquino, Curtis, and Nelson. Yeah, good mix of Royals, and the Diamond King. I mean, it's such a classic card, and the Dick Perez art is didn't always like it as a kid, but of course now I can really appreciate it. But I'm gonna still say I went fishing and I finally got a bite. All right, so before we had the technical difficulties, my original plan was to head up to my little honey hole tomorrow morning, see if I can grab something at least for next week, and possibly some stuff for December. But I'm going to be helping my mom move, so I need to call her as soon as I get off here and check with her to see what time I need to be there. If I have time, I am going to make that trip, a couple hours up the interstate, and check out. I haven't been there since like July. So we'll see if I can find something fun for us to break next week. If not, I already have a little retail selection queued and ready to go. But I'm not going to unveil anything tonight. So just check back on possibly Monday. Or I may just move signups to Tuesday night. I don't know. Ben does his unveilings or his signups on Monday night anyhow. So I don't know. I might officially move since I'm making some changes right now, I may move our signups to Tuesdays. But anyhow, first of next week, hopefully I'll have something new and exciting for us to rip. So just come back and check. But as always, thank you guys for your support. Thanks for helping fill this one up. And if you had requested some information once I get to the shop, I will reach out to you if I'm able to make it tomorrow. If not, I may have move it to next weekend. But anyhow, that's enough rambling on. Y'all have a fantastic weekend, whatever you have planned. And I will catch you back here next Friday night. Again, next 2 weeks, we will break as normal. I'm going to take the week of Thanksgiving off, and then we'll see about resuming and getting a couple, 2 breaks in or something, maybe 3 before we break for the holidays and for the year. But if I can find the time, I will plan a little end of the year special like I've done in previous years, where I give back to all of you for helping support me for another year. So just stay tuned for that, more details for that. But have a great one, guys, and we'll catch you back here next weekend.